Facebook and then send out a notice. Okay, and check to make sure we are online. See? Yes, we are live and alive. So welcome to the class. 1 second. Clear some of these windows so we don't. Oh, there we go. Enrollment. I gotta keep that. Keep that. Okay. So let's get back. Zoom. Whoops. All right, we'll get started. Thank you all for joining us. And all righty. Find my songbook songs. Ooh. Oh, it's one of my favorite. Just all right. This is a wake-up song. Chicago, con la chanda pole. Chicago, con la chanda pole. Kutanitra, Yaumaya, Isachiraku. Kotanindra Yamaya Isachivakole Majiva, what do I say? Samsara Vita Reini Majiva, I say Samsara Vita Reini Rohini to me, Hati Jarabale, Julia, Rohini to me, Vijarabale, Tomare, like Tayami, I know I'm tired. Tomare. I know I'm a child. I'm in Pina Pandora. Hey, I Mara. I'm in Pina Pandora. Hey, I Mara. I showed him my Nachiparunaki Iche Ashudimaya Nachiparunaki Hayama Mandra Lago Tumimaki Hayama Mandra mandra Nandumi mani Vakati Vinoda Ahu Chalane Popia Vakati Vinoda Ahu Chalane Popia Sayari Lama Mandra Loi Lama Gia Sayari Lama Mandra Loi Lama Gia Chicago Gorachana Bole Chicago, Gorachan, Maya, Sachira Gotani, Maya, Sachira Haribo. Gold, Haribo, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Paravaticharya, also Teta. Such as Shri Shrimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapana Shaim Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Suveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pachari Nipashesha Shunyabadi Paschatya Deja Tarani. So let me read the translation. Lord Gaurachandra is calling, wake up, sleeping soul. Wake up, sleeping soul. How long will you sleep in the lap of the witch called Maya? You've forgotten the way of devotional service and are lost in the cycle of birth and death. I have descended just to save you. I am your only true friend. Other than me, what friend do you have? I have brought the medicine that will wipe out the disease of illusion from which you suffer. Take this great chant for deliverance, Mahamantra, the names of Hari. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, falling at the Lord's lotus feet, take shelter of the Harinam mantra, the Lord's holy names. Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai. So, we're going to continue with our study of Bhaktivedanta Thakur's book, the Jaiva Dharma. Jaiva Dharma means the Dharma of the Jiva, which is us. And we're in a very interesting section. Of course, the whole Jaiva Dharma is very interesting. So let's continue. So, Om Gana Timidandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So let's share the screen. There it is. Okay. We are ready to go. Hold on a second. So this is a discussion between Chudamani and Vaishnavadas. Vaishnavadas, of course, is a devotee who used to be a sannyasi, but quite educated. I mean, he's renunciate, but he used to be a personal Advaita Vada sannyas. And now he's a Vaishnava renunciate. And Chudamani is trying to find fault in the Vaishnavas because basically he's been hired by Lahiri's son, Chandra Nath, to try to rescue his father from Krishna consciousness. So anyway, here we're talking about sukritis that are important to help one come to bhakti, but where there's a certain type of sukriti. Anyway, sukriti means good activity or auspicious activity. And actually, all you need to come to bhakti is the association of devotees. There's no material prerequisite. There's no material prerequisite to come to bhakti. None. 0, 0, 0. So that's important to understand. Chudamani said, I say that if a person has sukritis that nourish bhakti, those arise from another type of sukriti. So he's talking about the yavana does not have other sukritis, and thus it's impossible to use sukritis that nourish bhakti. So he's basically saying if someone is a yavana, in other words, outside the Vedic system, he has absolutely no sukriti, he can't come to Krishna consciousness. Impossible, because it's important to have material sukritis. But we say, and Vaishnava is going to say the opposite. Vaishnava said, one should not have such conviction. Nitya sukriti and naimitika sukriti are different categories. So naimitika means like material or temporary good activities, like helping a lot of old ladies cross streets or opening up a lot of orphanages or something like that. Those don't help people come to Krishna consciousness, nor does the lack of those sukritis impede one from coming to Krishna consciousness. But the nitya sukriti comes about by association with devotees, which we're going to hear right now. They are not dependent on one does not depend on the other. A wicked hunter by accident fasted on the day of Shiva's vrata and stayed awake all night. He attained bhakti for the Lord for this nitya sukriti. So he fasted, and that's called a gyata sukriti, in other words, without knowing. We accept that Shiva is the most worshipful Vaishnava. Vaishnavanamita Shambhu. Shiva is the best amongst the Vaishnavas. Bhagavatam 12, 13, 16. By performing that vrat, accidentally he attained bhakti for the Lord. So he worshipped or respected a devotee of the Lord accidentally, and then he got bhakti. It's not that he was necessarily a Shaivite. It says by accident he did that devotional service. You mean to say, Chudamani says, that Nitya Sukriti is accidental? Vaishnava Das, an interesting question, said, everything happens accidentally. This is so on the path of karma. Was not the entrance of the jiva into the cycle of karma sudden accident? So he's defining accident in a different way. Just like someone had a car accident that was their fault. Though the Mimamsakas say that karma is without beginning, karma has a root. Aversion to the Lord is the root accident which produces karma for the jiva. So here, you see, it's clear that he's using the word accident not in the same way that we generally use the word accident, or we sometimes do. It depends on the context. Because he says aversion to the Lord is the root accident. So it's an accident. Just like I may have an accident. Well, don't plan on it. But let's say I have an accident. Let's see, I don't want to predict anything. No, I don't have accidents. Anyway. So let's say someone has an accident, it's their fault. So the fault of the person was the cause of the accident. And sometimes the accident happens. Nothing happens without a cause in this world. So you can't say that anything is just like no cause. There's always a cause for something, which is usually karma. So similarly, Nitya Sukriti can be perceived as a sudden accident. It happens all of a sudden. Accidentally, I listened to the radio and heard Prabhupada. But it's not that there wasn't any cause. I was ready for it. And as it says, Brahmanda Brahmate Konna Bhagwan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Bhaya Bhakti Lata Bij. That when the living entity is ready for Guru, Krishna sends Guru, and then the Bhakti Lata Bij is gotten from the Guru. And then one can get Krishna consciousness. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad 4.7 says, Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nishaya shochiti muyama'ana ajushtam yada pashyat jamisham asyamahimanam iti vitas shokaha. Though dwelling in the same tree, the jiva bewildered laments because not recognizing the Lord. When he sees the glorious Lord who is different, he gives up lamentation. Typical example of two birds in the same tree. Bhagavatam says, Bhavavargo brahmato yada bhavaj janashathar yachyuta satsamagama satsangamo yarhi tadaiva sadgatao paravareshe tvai jayate udati. When the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in him devotion unto you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and effects. Bhagavatam 10:51-33. In other words, the association with devotees is the cause. And it happens, you may say, accidentally, but there's a reason that accident happens to you. Because Krishna's in everyone's heart, and he's directing the wanderings of the living entities. Here's an interesting verse by Lord Kapila. Satam prasangan mama viri sambado bhavanti vrikarna vrasayana kata tujoshanada shvapavarga vartmane shradavratir bhaktir anukramishyati. From association with the best devotees, topics of my glorious pastimes become directly realized, bringing the devotee to nishta. Nishta means one's fixed, it doesn't deviate, steady. Then the topics become an elixir, that's nectar, for the heart, and ears at the stage of ruchi. Ruchi means a taste. By taste for these topics, ashakti, bhava, ashakti means complete attachment, and also detachment from the material energy. Bhava means emotions, and then prema for the Lord, who is the destroyer of material life, quickly develop in sequence. A famous verse, Bhagavatam 3:25-25. Chudamani said, in your opinion, is there no difference between the Arya, that means someone who knows the higher values of life, and the Yavana, the outsider? Vaishnavadas says there are two types of difference, spiritual and material. Arya and Yavana are not spiritual differences, but material. Chudamani said, why are you again making a show of Vedantic words? What is the nature of this material difference between the Arya and Yavana? Vaishnavadas said, actions related to samsara are called material. In other words, to karma. In the material world, a Yavana is untouchable. Ew. According to material calculation, the Yavana is untouchable or should not be a person with whom one interacts socially. One should not receive water or food untouched by a Yavana. Because of the Yavana's low birth, he is untouchable. Wow. And Chudamani said, from the spiritual point of view, how are the Yavana and Arya non-different? Vaishnavadas said, when the scriptures say the holy name delivers any human being, it means that all persons, including Yavanas, can attain the spiritual goal. The person without Nitya Sukriti is called a two-legged animal, since he does not have faith in the name of Krishna. Thus, although he has received a human birth, he is not a human. That's in reference to Brahmins. His animal nature is predominant. The Mahabharata says, Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punyavat Rajan Vishwaso Jaiva Jayate. O King, faith in Mahaprasad Krishna of the holy name, the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, does not arise in persons who have little punya. Nitya Sukritis are full of punya. In other words, spiritual auspicious activities are full of piety. Spiritual piety. They purify the jiva. Naimitika Sukritis have little punya, not really purification. By them, one does not develop faith in the Lord as spiritual objects. In other words, just if you're a good person, it's not going to help you become Krishna conscious. You got to do spiritual things. Mahaprasad, Krishna, Krishna's name, and pure Vaishnavas, these four are spiritual and reveal spirit to the world. And that's how Prabhupada spread the movement. Mahaprasad, certainly, Mahaprasad was Prabhupada's secret weapon. And Krishna, obviously, you all know who Krishna is, I hope. Krishna's name, Hare Krishna, and pure Vaishnavas, and Prabhupada was and is a pure Vaishnava. Anyone associated with him got this Nitya Sukriti. Chudamani said with a slight laugh, "What is this? Vaishnavas are fanatical. How can rice, dal, and vegetables be spiritual? What will you not claim?" Vaishnavadas said, "Whatever you say, do not criticize the Vaishnavas. That is my request. In deliberation, receive the material, in other words, what is said, and deliberate. What is the need for criticizing the Vaishnavas? One should not accept anything except Mahaprasad in this world because it stimulates spiritual life and drives away material life." So, that's when one criticizes, that's not proper argumentative or debate techniques. Isha Upanishad says, and of course we all know this verse, Isha Vashamidam Sarvam Yakancha Jigajam Jagat Tena Jiktena Punjada Magradhakasha Svidanam, first verse in what's verse number 1. It's not actually the first verse. First verse is Om Purnamada Purnamidam. But this is verse number 1. The Om verse, Om Purnam, is actually introduction. The entire universe, whatever exists in Prakriti, that's material energy, is pervaded by the Lord. Enjoy what is given by the Lord, but do not desire the wealth of others. In other words, as Prabhupada translates this, everybody has a quota, and that's your quota. Don't try to get something that everybody else has, or someone else has, or that Krishna has, Don't try to get your own gopis, Prabhu. Everything in this world is related to the Shakti of the Lord, to the energy of the Lord. When one sees everything in relationship to the Chit Shakti, there's no material enjoyment. In other words, you see everything in relationship to spirituality, and especially the Brihad Chit Shakti, who is Krishna. And the Anu Chit Shakti, it's us, the small spiritual spark, and Krishna is the big spiritual fire. That's Brihat Chit Shakti. Remember those terms. For the jiva who accepts the Lord, if the person accepts whatever is necessary to maintain his body as the mercy of God, he does not degrade himself, but rather develops his tendency to advance spiritually. This is called Mahaprasad. It is sad that you have no taste for such remarkable things. In other words, I pity you. So Chudamani, this ritualistic Brahmana, said, leave that aside. He's been defeated, maybe a little insulted. And so he said, all right, let's change the subject matter. Please return to the topic at hand. How should you relate to the Yavana? Vaishnavadas says, as long as the person remains a Yavana, we remain aloof from him. He was a Yavana, but by the strength of Nitya Sukritis become a Vaishnava, is not called a Yavana. This is stated in the scriptures. Name bhaktas chaturvedi mad bhakta swapacha priyam priya tasmai deyam tato grayam sacha pujo yatayam. If someone merely knows the 4 Vedas, he is not my devotee. A dog eater who is my devotee is dear to me. One should give to him and receive from him. He is to be worshipped like me. That's from the Hari Bhakti Vilas 10:127. Oh my goodness. Pretty explicit. Chudamani says, I do not understand. I understand, sorry. Can a householder Vaishnava give his daughter to a Yavana Vaishnava? And can he accept a Yavana Vaishnava's daughter in marriage? Vaishnava says, from the material viewpoint, the Yavana remains a Yavana till his death in the material, but from the spiritual point of view, after attaining bhakti, is no longer Yavana. The 10 types of karmas are smarta karmas. They're ritualistic activities. Among them is marriage. So marriage is a smarta ceremony. There are also Vaishnava marriages, and Prabhupada did Vaishnava marriages between people of different varnas. If a Vaishnava householder is an Arya situated in the 4 varnas, he should marry within his own varna. Though the 4 varnas are naimitika for living in the material world of the family, this type of marriage is best. So it's interesting. So, it's best to marry someone with the same qualities, obviously. I mean, that's, One does not become a Vaishnava by rejecting the behavior of the 4 varnas. So, in other words, we don't reject varnashram. We just understand. It's an amitika, it's temporary. The Vaishnava should perform actions which are favorable for bhakti. If he develops indifference to the dharma of the 4 varnas and becomes qualified to renounce them, then he can renounce all those dharmas. Along with the 4 varnas, he will give up karmas. If the dharmas of the 4 varnas are unfavorable, the activities of the 4 varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, are unfavorable for bhakti, he can easily reject them. If the society of Yavanas is unfavorable for worship, the Yavana endowed with faith is qualified to reject that society. You can reject your society. Ooh. What is the difference between a Vaishnava qualified to reject the 4 varnas and a Vaishnava qualified to reject Yavana society? Both reject material behavior. Spiritually, the 2 are brothers. Very important point. This is not so for the household of Vaishnava. Though society may be unfavorable for his worship, he cannot reject it unless he is fully qualified for rejecting society. When his respect for favorable items becomes very strong, he will naturally reject dependence on society. So in other words, one has obligations when one gets married to society, even though you're a devotee. Now, if you become a pure devotee, that's another thing. But generally, because people are not completely pure, they should observe the societal norms. Bhagavatam says, Jayaivam gunandoshan mayadishtan apisvakan dharman santyaja yaksarvan mamajeta satu satama. A person who, understanding good and bad aspects of Dharma, as taught by me, gives up all his duties and simply worships me, is the best of all. As Srimad Bhagavatam 11:11-30. The conclusion of the Gita also says, Sarvadharman purityasya mam ekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarvapapibhyo mokshayashyami masuchaha. Give up all dharmas, just surrender unto me alone. I will deliver you from all sins. Do not worry. Famous verse. Obviously, everyone should learn it. 1866. Yadayasyanu grinati bhagavanatma bhavata sajahati matim loke veda cha parinishtitam. When the Lord shows mercy to the devotee gives up thinking of karma kanda, that means the path of the ritualistic brahmanas, and material affairs. 4:29-46 Bhagavatam. Chudamani said, if a Yavana is a genuine Vaishnava, can you eat food and drink water with him? Vaishnavadas said, the Nirapeksha renounced Vaishnava can eat Mahaprasad with him, but the household of Vaishnava cannot eat with him. But it is not forbidden for the household Vaishnava to receive prasad of another Vaishnava. Rather, he should. It's interesting. So, let's see. Yeah, so he observes social etiquette, that's all. Then why does the Yavana Vaishnava not have the qualification to touch the deity? Vaishnava says, it is an offense to call a Vaishnava born in a Yavana family a Yavana. All Vaishnavas are qualified to serve Krishna. If a household Vaishnava performs acts contrary to Varnashram while serving the deity, there's a material fault. There's no arrangement for renounced Vaishnavas to serve the deity. They do not do so because if they do deity services contrary to their status as renounced Vaishnavas, they serve the deity in their minds. That's an interesting statement. And why did Prabhupada serve the deity? Always travel with deities and do a lot of deity service himself, and why do many sannyasis, including myself, do deity service? Because it's not prohibited, and it helps them in their devotional service. It's a transcendental activity. But if one is the renounced type of Vaishnava you're talking about here, is a Bhajaradandi rather than a Goshtadandi, then it's a different situation. So the renounced Vaishnavas that are being referred to here are Bhajaradandis, just people sit and absorb in bhajan all day long. And they're not supposed to get into basically anything else except for Krishna Katha, bhajan, and just like minimizing everything else in the body and all other activities. They don't do fire sacrifices, they don't do deity worship. But Prabhupada gave a different type of sannyas to all of us, which is called Paravajakacharya sannyas, where we travel and preach and we help people and we engage in all these other activities. It's a different order of sannyas than that which is being portrayed here. Chudamani said, I understand. What do you think of brahmanas? And Vaishnavadas says, there are two types of brahmanas. He whose nature is Brahminical and he who was born in a Brahmin family. The person whose nature is Brahminical is almost a Vaishnava. Everyone respects him. The Brahmin by birth receives material respect. The Vaishnava conclusion is stated in the scriptures. Vipradvi sadguna yutad aravindanava padaravinda vimuktat swapacham varishtam manye dararpitamano vachane hitarta pranam punati sakulam natu burimanaha. I consider a dog eater who has dedicated everything, mind, word, activities, wealth, and life to the Supreme Lord superior to a Brahmin who has all 12 items of previous verse, but is adverse to the lotus feet of the Lord. So, in other words, what the word Brahman actually means is someone who knows Brahman, and who knows all the aspects of Brahman, especially the Bhagawan aspect. He purifies his whole family, whereas the so-called respectable person does not. Bhagavatam 7, 9, 10. Chudamani says, the Shudras are not qualified to recite the Vedas. If a Shudra is a Vaishnava, can he recite the Vedas? Vaishnavadas said, whatever Varna he may have, if he is a pure Vaishnava, he attains the status of a spiritual Brahmin. The Vedas have two portions, portions which propound ordinary karmas, etc., and portions which propound tattva, or truth. Ordinary karmas mean like karma kanja stuff, like how to elevate yourself materially. The material Brahmin is qualified to recite the portions which propound karmas, etc. The spiritual Brahmin is qualified to recite the portions on tattva. Tattva means, the basic philosophy. Whatever varna he may arise in, the pure Vaishnava can study and teach the portions of the Vedas which propound tattva, rather than karma kanja. Brihad Aranyaka, Upanishad says, Tam eva vidiro vidyaya pragyam turvita brahmanaha. After understanding him, the sober brahmana should meditate on him. And Brihad Aranyaka, Upanishad 4:4-21. Etad aksharam gagyavid ditvashma lokat praiti sakripana ataishe etad aksharam viditvasma lokat praiti sabrahmanaha. He who does not understand the Lord and goes from the world is a miser. So someone who lives his whole life without understanding God, he's just a miser, creep, what's called a creepina, where the English word creep comes from. He who understands the Lord and goes from this world is a brahmana. That's from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 3.8.10. Concerning the material brahmana, Manu says, Yona dityadviyo vedam anyatra kurite shrama Sajivaneva sudratvam ashu gacchati sanvayaha. The brahmana who does not study the Vedas and labors becomes a Shudra very soon along with his family in this life. So it's very interesting that he's talking to this so-called Brahma Chudamani. And Chudamani has not really studied the Vedas. You know, he hasn't really, doesn't know Sanskrit very well, hasn't studied the Vedas very well. And so basically he's saying indirectly that Chudamani, you are a Shudra. He's not saying you're a Yamana, he said you're a Shudra. So it's indirect defeat for Chudamani. The qualification for the Vedas which indicate Tattva is described as follows in other parts of the Vedas which teach about philosophy, okay? The eternal philosophy. Not the philosophy of eat, drink, and be merry. Not like the Kama Sutra or anything like that. That's not philosophy. Yashadeva para bhaktir yata devi tata garo shaiti gatata yarta prakashante mahatmana. The recited meaning of scriptures is revealed to the great soul whose bhakti to the Lord is equal to his bhakti to Guru. That's the Shvetashvata Upanishad. Prabhupada will quote this verse very often. That one who has implicit faith in the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the imports of the Vedic literatures are revealed to that person. Para bhakti, para means transcendental or supreme, and the verse means pure bhakti. I do not desire to say more about this. You will understand. In brief, the person who has developed faith in pure bhakti is qualified to study the Vedas, which propound tattva, not the karma kanja section. The person who has developed pure bhakti is qualified to teach the Vedas, which propound tattva. Chudamani said, so you have concluded that the Vedas, which propound tattva, that means philosophy, the philosophical section of the Vedas, teach only Vaishnava Dharma and do not teach any other Dharma? Hey, and Krishna himself says, you know, Vedais char saber amheva Vedo, by all the Vedas I'm to be known. So even Krishna says that's what's going on. Vaishnava Das says Dharma is only one. Its name is Nitya Dharma or Vaishnava Dharma. Many types of Naimatika Dharma are taught as steps towards this Dharma. In other words, the Vedic literatures mainly are these steps, and Krishna in the Gita says Trigunya Vishya Veda. He said the Vedas are mainly meant for dealing with the modes of nature or Naimatika Dharma because they're trying to bring you up to a little bit higher platform, higher, gradually, ahonam janmanamante, after many births. Then hopefully you become a devotee. Vasudeva sarva miti samahatma sudrilabha. The Lord says, Kalina nashta pralaye vaniyam veda sangyata mayado brahmane parokta dharmo yasham maratmakaha. By the influence of time, the Vedic knowledge was lost at the time of annihilation. Therefore, when the subsequent creation took place, I spoke to Brahma, the Vedic knowledge in which bhakti is the essence. 11.14.3. Katha Upanishad 1.2.15 says, Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti Tate Padam Sangrahena Brahmit Mitad Vishnu Paramam Padam. I will speak in summary the abode in which the Vedas proclaim the supreme abode of Krishna. Of Vishnu, Vishnu, I think of Krishna all the time. By this point, the faces of Devidas, and Devidas, of course, is the son of Lahiri, who hired this Chudamani guy. No, Chandranath was the son, sorry. Devi Das was another Brahmin, so-called Brahmin, sorry, who was hired. And his associates had almost dried up. The scholars had lost their spirit. They became depressed. It was almost 5 Gatikas in the afternoon. Everyone agreed at this point that the debate should stop. The assembly dissolved by common agreement. The Brahmin Pandits in one voice praised the learning of Vaishnava Das. Going to the respective places, the Vaishnavas shouted the names of the Lord. So Vaishnava Das just like wiped out these ritualistic Brahmanas. Just, put them in their place. A good whipping they had. Very exciting. Chapter 7. Nitya Dharma. This is a very interesting story here. The story of Chandidas. Oh, I love this story. It's chapter 7 is called Nitya Dharma and Samsara. Samsara means repeated birth and death. Nitya Dharma means eternal, one's eternal duty or eternal position, which is Vaishnava Dharma. Nitya Dharma, Vaishnava Dharma, the same. Samsara means back and forth, the wheel of samsara going back and forth to this material world. Oh my God. Get me out of this place. Vanika Nagara was an ancient mercantile village at the place called Saptagrama on the bank of the Saraswati River. Many gold merchants used to live there for many years. From the time of Udaranadatta, all the merchants were attracted to Sankirtan by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. Chandidas, one merchant, fearing the expense, would not participate in the kirtans of the people there. He was afraid that they would ask him for donations. He was a cheap person. Ooh, yeah, he just wanted to hoard. That's mentioned here. He hoarded a lot of money in a stingy way. His wife Damayanti had the same nature and did not respect Vaishnava guests. If a guest came to the house, they slammed the door in the Vaishnava's face. When they were younger, the merchant couple had 4 sons and 2 daughters. Gradually, marrying off the daughters, he kept a lot of money for his sons. The quality of mercy is restricted to the children who belong to a house where Vaishnavas do not go. In other words, for people who are materialistically inclined, they only show mercy to people who are their family members. And it's interesting, we've seen that even when someone dies and they leave money to their sons, invariably, not in every case, the sons actually fight with each other over the money, like over the father's corpse or the mother's corpse. Very bad. I mean, I was very fortunate my brother was not like that. My brother, because of my association, he's become a little pious. Hopefully I'll become pious. As their sons grew, they became greedy and desired that their parents die, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The sons became like the parents, like father, like sons. And they desired that their parents die. They should die already. You know why? The old guy is just hanging on because of their desire for their money. The couple suffered greatly because of this. Obviously, living in a house of snakes. They got their sons married as the wives grew older. They also adopted the nature of their husbands and desired that Chandidas and his wife die. Can you imagine? But this happens. It's real life. And sometimes, you read stories that even in America sometimes that you'll find people will kill their father or mother, to try to get the money at the end of a jail. The sons became expert. They opened up shops. They divided up most of their father's wealth and did business. In other words, they took it anyway. One day, Chandidas called the sons together. From my young days being a frugal nature, I've saved money for you. Never did I accept good food or furnishings. Your mother also passed her time in this way. Now we have become old. It is your dharma to protect us attentively. I am unhappy in seeing that you do not care for us. I have some hidden treasure. I will give it to him who is the best son. That's crazy. I will give money to the person who loves me the most. Of course, his mind was polluted because he equated money or the possession of money with love. Money, what is it? Cash talks, everyone else walks. The sons and their wives listened silently to his talk and then met separately and concluded they would send their father and mother to another place and steal the treasure, for it was likely he would give the treasure to the wrong person. They were sure the treasure was in their father's bedroom. So here's what they do to the father. Really nasty, creepy sons. The eldest son was named Hari Charana. Ooh. That's a spiritual name, but he wasn't spiritual. One day in the morning, he spoke to his father. You and mother should go to see Navadvip Dham at least once. This makes human life successful. I have heard in the age of Kali there is not more auspicious tirtha than Navadvip. It will not be difficult or expensive to go there. If you cannot walk there by giving 2 panas, a boat can take you there. If you wish, one Vaishnavi can accompany you. Chandidas had consulted with his wife. She was overjoyed. The two talk. The children have learned from the talk a few days ago. It is not impossible for us to go. Passing through Kalna and Shantipur, we will go to Navadvip. In other words, they trusted their children. And that's just how contaminated they were, that they actually trusted these contaminated, creepy boys. On the appointed day, the two made their journey. Walking the next day, they arrived at Kalna. At one shop they cooked, ate, and stayed. At that time, a man from Saptagram said, that Saptagram is their home. Your sons have broken into your room and taken everything. They will not let you return home. They have taken your hidden treasure. On hearing this, the two lamented for their wealth. They did not eat that day. They simply wept. A Vaishnavi said, you should not be attached to your house. Take to begging and make a hut. Those for whom you have worked so much have you become your enemies. You cannot return there. Go and stay in Navadvip. It is better that you go there and beg. Hearing of their sons and daughters-in-law's actions, Chandidas and his wife could not go home. They said it was better to die. Finally, they stayed in the house of one Vaishnava in Ambika. After a few days, they saw Shantipur and then went to Navadvip. They stayed in the house of one merchant family in Mayapur. Staying a few days, they saw the 7 villages of Navadvip, and crossing the Ganges, saw the 7 villages of Kulia. After a few days, attachment for their sons and daughters-in-law surfaced again. Attachment, you don't get rid of it so easily. Chandidas said, let us go to Saptagram. That's where their home is. Do our children not have a little affection for us? The Vaishnava attendant said, do you not have shame? This time they will kill you. Hearing this, the elderly couple thought. They then said, you return to your house, talking to the Vaishnavi. We have regained our intelligence. Taking advice from good people, we will maintain ourselves by begging. So they become resolved not to go home. Obviously the children would kill them if they went home. And how much love is there? It shows the problem with being extremely stingy and selfish. Wow. What a heavy story. So, anyway. All right, we'll stop here because it's 5:50 right now. Okay. Time to stop. And we will see, unmute you. Allow yourselves to unmute yourselves. Oh, whoops. Oh, there we go. Alrighty, so gang, you can unmute yourselves. You can type in the chat window if you like, or you can raise your hand like you're in school, and then I'll call on you. Raise your hand electronically, not in a video, because I'm not going to look at all the videos of all you nice little people. But raise your hand electronically, and I will call on you. So who has a question? Anybody here have a question? Oh, there, Gopal Das Adhikari. Actually, Gopal married. Let me just tell a story. Gopal married. He was from the West, and his wife is from India. So here's an example of, I don't want to say, I will not say he was a Yavana before, but his wife was Vaishnava, and he's a Vaishnava now. So you have a question? Oh, you were breaking up. No, I can just hear like one syllable, and then it stops, and then there's another syllable.
Let me try something.
I can hear you better now when you said, "Let me try something." Speak now, or forever hold your peace. No? 10,
Can
9.
you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, what's your
Okay.
question?
Network problems. Sorry. Um, so earlier you were speaking an injunction that once one understands Krishna, then he should meditate on him. And
Yeah,
yet, in the Bhagavatam, we see that even Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, they both say, "We don't understand you."
yeah,
So, and also there's many places where it says, "No one can understand Krishna."
yeah,
So he's beyond the ability to understand. So two things is when people like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva say that they don't understand him, is that their humility? That they
no,
actually,
because
as
nobody
Vaishnavas,
can.
they
No, it's a fact. Nobody can understand Krishna completely. And then, as far as your point about you can meditate on someone without understanding them, I mean, I thought of a lot of people, politicians. No, there's one politician I think of him. I don't understand him at all.
yeah.
I won't mention his
But
name.
in the verse, it says first understand him, then meditate on him. So what is that trying
Well,
to
that
say?
understanding is just that I'm hearing about someone's basic qualities, but understanding fully is impossible. Understanding Krishna fully is impossible.
So the understanding is sort of a multi-tiered experience where you understand
Yes,
up to a certain tier
that's
and
right.
then you meditate on them.
Some people only
Okay.
understand Krishna's great. Some people understand Krishna's sweet. They're both understanding Krishna, but at different degrees or different aspects of Krishna.
Mm.
But nobody can really understand Krishna from a different perspective, which means understand him. He's unlimited. How can you understand someone who is unlimited? I can't. But I can understand certain things about him. To be more specific, I can understand certain things about him, and sometimes the word understand means just understanding certain things about a particular individual. I can understand that he's not understandable.
Uh,
That's understanding.
so the word understanding is to be understood in context.
Like every other word.
Uh-huh.
Like
Thank you.
practically every other word is defined. Not every word, but I mean certain words. Like up or down.
Mm,
What's up? What's what's down to me may be up to you.
definitely.
So Gopal's an example of someone from a Western culture. He married this like chaste lady from India who's just like an angel from the spiritual world,
Yeah.
and she has made his good fortune.
Thank you, Guriya.
She's a very nice lady. I mean, just like this morning, I was watching. She was coming to the temple, and and it's very difficult for her to climb the stairs, but she struggles to do that early in the morning. Just think what determination this person has.
Yeah.
What determination to be Krishna conscious. I really appreciate it. I said, wow, I wish I had 1/10 of that determination that she has to be Krishna conscious. Phew. with me, I get a little boo boo on my hand and I'm crying. So we
Is that
see.
Krishna Das Prabhu's mother?
Yeah, oh, Rishikesh, okay, you have a question.
No, I was just curious. Is she okay?
What's that?
Are we talking about Krishna Das Prabhu's mother who comes on Sunday?
We're talking about Krishna Priya, little Krishna Priya, Gopal's wife.
Oh, okay, okay. Uh,
How she's such a great devotee. How she struggles to come to the temple, and and climbing the stairs is really difficult for her. And I'm just appreciating how wonderful she is,
She is, yes.
how advanced she is. And,
Even Krishna Das Prabhu's mother also, she comes every Sunday. She's
oh yeah,
96.
Krishnadasa's mother too. Yeah, also. I mean, there's a lot of advanced, nice people who are just very determined in spite of physical challenges coming to the temple or to chant. I mean, it's just like I just admire it. There to me, it's it actually inspires me to see people like that. I just I want to glorify them. I'm inspired. So okay, so who else has a question? Rishikesh? Oh, you muted yourself. Do you have a question?
No, good. I was just curious who we are talking about. I just.
Yeah, I was talking about Gopal's wife. That he's I just her determination. Vyavasayatmaka here ekeha kurunandana. Bahu shaktas tunantascha. I hope she's not listening. She doesn't like it when I glorify her. Okay. Co little KB can only walk 2 steps and stops before the. Yes, I've seen that. Even when walking to the temple, when I walk, when I'm walking at the same time, I see that she walks 2 steps, stops, takes the next two, and because it's so dark out there, and like any little animal, and she's very small, like a cat is scary to her, and she still comes to the temple. Just a cat. You can imagine. Let's take let's say if there was a tiger running around in the temple grounds, would you come to the temple? So that's basically the comparison. Size wise, a tiger. Of course, cat is not going to eat any human being, no matter how small they are, but that cat will not. Okay, yeah, you can tell her, Gopal, that we just glorified her. Any other questions or comments? No other questions or comments? Okay, so we're going to end now, and hopefully we'll see everybody tomorrow. I'll be traveling a little bit tomorrow. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving, but I'll be a little bit on the road tomorrow. So hopefully I'll be able to do a class from wherever I am tomorrow. Okay, on that happy note, thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace.